I got it. What time is it?
It's already happening. You know,
Yeah,
when you tell me about it.
Huh?
When you tell me about it, it's already happening.
There you go. Yeah. Yeah. It's like a lot of people think about practicing it and learning how to play all the Les Claypool licks or something. That's not it. You know. First, you learn the instrument, and then you sing your song. But trying to sing your song without knowing how to play the instrument, kind of limited, you know. Learn how to play the instrument. And learn as much as you can. Whether you think it's important or not, it is. Learn theory. Learn a lot about theory. Really nail it. You know, I remember I used to teach over at the conservatory here in Brooklyn, and I used to stand up in front of the class and talk about a C major scale for a whole hour. You know, and they just take it apart and show people how this works and how that. And they talk about a C major chord. If you raise the root a half step, you're playing an A7. Did you know that? You're also playing a C sharp diminished. If you lower the fifth a half step, you're playing an A minor 6 chord, or a D ninth chord, or an F sharp minor 7 flat 5 chord. Things like that. And when you talk about it, it sounds very cold and sounds very sterile. But whenever you put it to use, that means whenever you're playing a C chord, you play C in the bass, and it comes up to an A7th, and you play A in the bass, you can play C sharp, because that's the third of the bass. And then you go right to D, down a half step is D flat, 7th, and G7th are the same. They really are. You know, things like that. I mean, I'm talking pretty fast right now, but the fact is, that's all very important stuff. Even when I was teaching at the conservatory, and we would have classes, we'd be talking about maybe this or that, and I would stop sometime just to get people's attention. I'd say, okay, Richard, why don't you stand up and tell the class the story of F sharp and the life of F sharp. F sharp in the key of F sharp is 1. In the key of D, it's a 3. In the key of E flat, it's a sharp 9. Things like that. In the key of A, it's a 6. Unless you have a flatted 7th, then it's a 13th. Yeah. And after he would do whatever he did, I'd ask somebody else if he missed anything. Well, he didn't say, and it became like a game. But everybody learned what F sharp was. And, of course, F sharp. The same way about C, B flat, whatever the note is. I just happen to pick F sharp maybe at the time. Yeah. But when you do that, you can learn a lot. And to limit yourself by just, I got a lot of people that start that, oh yeah, but I play by ear. So yeah, well, all great musicians play by ear. But the really great ones have a better ear sometimes because of the knowledge. You know. Unless you're some kind of a genius. I know 2 people in my life. One is was a very famous jazz guitar player, Tal Farlow. Tal Farlow was probably the best bebop guitar player that ever lived. Tal wouldn't have a clue as to what I was just talking about. The other one is Eddie Deal. He lives up in upstate. Eddie is at the same level Tal was, just not as famous. But unless you're one of those guys, and I'm not, you know, I played with both of them. I'm qualified to play with them, but I'm not them. But unless you can do that, you might want to listen to me.
That's the practicing part?
Hmm?
That's the practicing part?
Mm-hmm.
The theory.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. That's the learning music for real, you know. And, but, you know, quite truthfully today, in today's music, I could see why a lot of people wouldn't bother, because you don't really have to. Because the competition isn't at that level. And you don't have to be, you know. When I came to New York back in 1967, during that time, if you were going to call yourself a musician, you better damn well be one, because they were everywhere. Great, great musicians, walking the streets, doing gigs, doing studio gigs, doing this, doing that. I mean, people, I could name probably 25, 30 guitar players that you never heard of that would blow almost everybody who ever heard of away. Al Casamente, Joe Puma, Alan Hamlin, Barry Gilbert, Artie Rosen, Sal Salvador, Chuck Wayne, Endless, Johnny Smith. Jesus Christ, nobody played the guitar better than Johnny Smith. Nobody. But they were just guys who they're great musicians, and that's what I walked into when I came here. I could never get an attitude, because all these people I know. The guy you're going to hear tonight, Jamie Foxx. Jamie is a superb guitarist. Superb. And Lisa Pratt is there with me tonight, young lady from Australia, plays baritone sax and alto sax. One of the best musicians I've ever played with. Yeah. Who else is there? Charlie Karanick. Charlie's a lawyer by day, but he's a great trumpet player. He's also tall. Charlie's like 6'6", 6'7". He's a really tall guy. He plays the trumpet and flugelhorn. He'll be there tonight. And Willie Martinez is the drummer tonight. He's not the regular drummer. Cook, he's out of town. He's on the road with somebody, I forget. Anyway, really is a superb musician. Everybody I play with is like that. You know.
What about the mission?
Hmm?
The mission.
Hmm?
You know, music.
Music.
Being a musician is like being a channel.
Mm-hmm.
It's like you said, when you try to be in front of the music, you mess it all up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But when you're letting it guide you.
Mm-hmm. That's right. Of course, yes.
So, you think the people that are geniuses, the way you said, they're just good channels?
Oh.
Good channeling of...
Oh, no. These is the whole package, everything. Eddie would never get in front of the music. No way. No, I would never call them that if that was the case. No. No, they are truly great.
That's why when you said...
Frank Sinatra.
Oh.
The ultimate musician. That's my favorite musician, by the way. When people ask me, they say, Carl, you play the guitar? I say, yeah. And you play the bass? Yep. And I play some piano. And I heard you said you played trombone when you were a kid. I said, I played a little trombone. What's your favorite instrument? Well, my favorite instrument is Frank Sinatra. If I could do that, you could burn all this shit. Now, there's a guy who was never in front of the music. He stayed back here all the time. He was the music. I never met Frank. I met his son. I got to hang out with Frank Jr. a little bit. And I played with Tony Bennett a few times. But I never got to meet Frank. And that's one of my biggest regrets. And all the people I met and people I played with in my life, Frank would have been the one. I really would have loved to have played with Frank. Yeah. I have all of his records, probably not all of them, but I have tons of them. And I grew up listening. I learned a lot from Frank. I learned a lot about music, listening to Frank and what he put around him, you know. All the great arrangers that work with him and all the musicians. And, you know, yeah.
It's a spiritual experience.
Mm.
It's a spiritual experience.
Oh, yeah.
He's...
Yeah. Yeah.
He delivers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think you'll see that tonight. All these musicians are like that. They're all really super qualified musicians. They all hear everything. They read anything you put in front of them. I mean, Lisa, the first time I played with Lisa, the saxophone player, we were playing some bebop tunes. One that not many people know is called Hershey Bar. Stan Getz played it back in the early 50s. And it's in the key of A flat. And that's what, like that. Like that. And it's an A flat. And I didn't have it. All I had was the concert chart. And she's playing alto saxophone. She read it right down at that tempo. And she's sight transposing at the same time. Because she's looking at A flat and she's playing in F, which is what the alto saxophone does. And that's just one of the things that you. Had I hummed it to her, she probably would have played it too, you know, because she hears at a very high level. And yeah, and she's a sweetheart. Yeah. He's not, no egos, no nothing. Just doing a gig. Most of the, I'd say the really good musicians are like that. Kenny Burrell. Kenny's a very close friend of mine. Kenny was, I've known Kenny a long time, and it's just a nice man.